her relationship with that blanket is sensual. It is like when she's had a hard day, she definitely takes it out on that blanket.
You see her just like leaning into it, and I'm like, man, I wish I had a boyfriend blanket.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Merriment. I'm your host, Carly Jansen. My husband, Johnny's going to join us in a moment. Okay, I got to come clean. This podcast took an extra few weeks to come out, and you may not have noticed, but we need to bring it up because the reason for it is something that will likely affect podcasts to follow. I'll be brief, we'll talk about it later, but some devastating news hit us just before we released this podcast, and then suddenly we weren't feeling very merry. So this episode, we don't know about the news yet, so everything is super happy. We have a lot of fun in this episode. Johnny's sleep moving is starting to get a little creepy. I've got a mystical theory about why people finish each other's sentences, and we muse about leaps of faith leading to a hero's journey. In next episode, we will be broaching the subject of what happened, whether it's just about the grieving process or more specifics. But for now, just enjoy this episode and hit that subscribe button. Join the merriment.
Oh, I'm not used to these new mic stands.
All right, that marks the beginning.
Oh, cheers, babe. We haven't had some of these nudies in a while.
Nudies, indeed.
They're called nude, and apparently they're kind of like specific to our region. Aren't they from like
Vancouver?
They're from Vancouver. They're
BC.
awesome.
They're good.
They're just like basically vodka and soda water and some flavors, and there's no sugar in it.
No, they're good. All right. Oh, I'm hot. I'm coming in hot.
You're coming in really hot.
All right.
Ooh.
This is our next. We're doing it right now.
We're on podcast number 3 now.
Podcast number 3, and we're
Third time's the charm.
Third time's the charm. If you didn't like those last 2, this one, it's a slightly better chance that you'll like this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit more charming.
Just a bit more charming. Yeah.
We also have like we kind of like revolutionized our setup a little bit. We got mic stands, so we're like pretty serious now. Johnny's not lounging on a couch anymore. He's like sitting up straight. We're not going to fall asleep in this podcast.
No, that's true. Yeah, we're moving up in the world in this podcast biz.
Yeah,
so
mic stands. Woohoo!
Little tiny baby mic stands. Actually, these are the cheapest mic stands I could buy.
$40, cha-ching.
For 2. $40 for 2.
Oh, so wow. How's your week been so far? If you could characterize your week as like an animal in some kind of action, what would it be?
Oh, geez. It would probably be a cat kneading its paws in its favorite blanket.
What?
It's been a great week.
Wow.
Yeah. Very inspired week
Oh my
for
goodness. That's great.
Me. Yeah. That visualization just came right to me. I didn't even have to think about it.
That's why I asked you. I thought that would be a really great way to describe your week.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was like Willow, our cat, she has this purple blanket.
We call it the boyfriend blanket.
We call it the boyfriend blanket because it is her relationship with that blanket is sensual. It is like when she's had a hard day, she definitely takes it out on that blanket.
You see her just like leaning into it, and I'm like, man, I wish I had a boyfriend blanket.
Yeah, I know. Everybody could use a boyfriend blanket.
If you could see the way Willow loves that boyfriend blanket, woo.
Dang, you'd wish that.
We used to call it something else, though.
What did we call it?
Well, we called that what was happening, and we would say Willow was masturbating.
Master blanket. We should just call it the master blanket.
Hey, that's not bad.
Yeah,
I think I still like boyfriend blanket.
Boyfriend's the way it goes. Mm-hmm. That's the name.
Yeah.
All right on.
I would say my week. I don't know why it comes to mind, just like a kangaroo like leaping its guts out across like the Australian outback, and there's no water, and it's just like going on and on. That's kind of like what my week has felt like. Maybe
let's be specific here. Leaping its guts out, you mean it has a split down its belly and its guts are falling out as it's hopping? Because that's pretty gross.
I'm a writer, so this is a figure of speech.
Okay.
I talk in metaphors all the time. I'm extremely artistic.
I've never heard that before. Like
leaping its guts out.
When you do something, your guts out.
Like puking your guts out.
Okay, I've heard.
But I mean, that actually is pretty literal.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
It was just
leaping your guts out.
I feel like the visual that it probably gave you is why I actually used such terrible words to describe.
Oh, no.
But it hasn't been that kind of week. It's just been like that kind of past 24 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, Forrest has just been nursing a whole bunch and not sleeping very well. And honestly, if Forrest could wear my boobs as one of those like Duff beer hats with the straws coming down into his mouth, he totally would.
Oh man, I want to see that. I want to see that illustrated. Just a baby with two boobs on his head and
straws coming down.
Straws. You know what? And that happened. He did suck from straws connected to your nipple.
Yeah, absolutely true.
That's a thing that happened.
Not connected to my nipple. What
Wait.
are you talking about?
Well, there
Creepy.
was no, but when he was a little baby.
It's because I had to pump milk when.
No, but remember, we actually had to.
Oh, it was taped on my. Yeah.
Yeah, and he actually had. Maybe this is TMI.
We've already
Right
gone
off the
there,
bat.
so
Okay.
it's too late.
But this is what happens when some people, when you first have a baby, they have a problem breastfeeding, or what's it, when your milk hasn't dropped yet? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just like there's all kinds of breastfeeding problems that can happen when you have a newborn baby. And so as you're trying to get through some of those difficulties, one of the things that they might do is get your little baby to suck on your pinky finger. And as they start to get that kind of suction latch, because it's easier to do that than to do it onto a nipple, you stick this teensy little tube into their mouth that the other end is sitting in like a little thing of your pumped breast milk. And then they end up sucking up your milk that way.
Right. So
Until they actually start nursing, well, that's how they're like getting their milk.
Right. So he has drinking your milk through a straw as an infant. That's the thing that happened.
Such an important detail. I'm glad we sorted this
I'm
out.
glad we sorted it out. This has happened before.
Yeah, exactly. So it sounds like our weeks have been a little bit different from each other.
Yeah, it has. I'm sorry that you've had a rough week.
It's totally fine. It's gonna be better soon. I had a bit more sleep. It's nice to have family around sometimes. Like my sister and my brother were here this morning, and so my sister was able to take Forrest a little bit this morning after I was like, I'm delirious, and she's like, you go lie down. I'm gonna take the baby for a little while, and I'm just like eyes all shiny, like, really?
That's nice.
I crawled back into bed so fast.
Oh man. Yeah, it's so funny having other people around. Staying at your place really makes you realize how much we took for granted sleep when we were before having a kid.
Because people come over and they're just like, I got to bed kind of late, like 11, and I only slept till about 8. So I'm just like, wow.
And it's like they're like, yeah, I wasn't tired, so I just laid and half listened to an audiobook and kind of slept. I don't know, I probably dozed off around 2-3 in the morning. And it's like, oh man, do you remember that? And then they sleep in until like 11 and they're like, yeah, I was just tired. But it's now, man, if I could just go back then, I wouldn't like, and you know what? I wouldn't like it. I'm happy that I value sleep and I value awake time.
Actually, it's very true. Like when you see people sleeping that much, which I've been a sleep lover my whole life. It's just been like one of my favorite things. But now I see what, excuse me, too much sleeping in. I'm just like, oh, but think about all of the things you're missing.
Yeah.
It's like a different kind of FOMO now. Now that I'm a parent, sleeping in is a FOMO.
Wait, what would it be?
It's still fear of missing out, but just
right.
missing out of things because you slept in, not because like you didn't go out late.
Is there a new acronym there somewhere that we can think of? Like fear of missing awake time? FOMA?
Fear of missing the sunset or sunrise?
Fear of missing the sun. FOMA, no.
You know what? We can work on this later. We'll kind of like jam it out and see what comes up.
We're pretty good at making up puns like that.
Definitely.
Oh, I thought of such a good pun today.
All right, lay it on me.
I was like, Rory, he's my coworker. I was like, we should start, because we always talk about starting up some businesses.
Okay,
we want to make it rich quick. That's our goal together. Mm-hmm. And so we want to start up a shop that we restore gross things. And it'll be called the Grocery Store.
Grocery Store.
Grocery Store.
That's great.
Yeah,
I love that.
Store.
Oh man!
And then also another thing that I want to do is, I want to, the show Paw Patrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to create a cartoon with a troll dad.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
Papa Troll.
Papa Troll. Mm-hmm. And if he's that could because I heard kids talking about it. I heard people talk about Paw Patrol. Mm-hmm. And I'd never seen it, and that's what I thought it was. I thought it was a Papa, like Papa Smurf, but it was Paw Patrol. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And to be honest, I was very disappointed when I found out that it was a bunch of
dogs on patrol.
Yeah. I was just like, I'd rather see like a troll dad.
He's like the next level of Papa Smurf.
Yeah, Paw Patrol. He's
but
a little
like
bit
not
more
nearly
grumpy.
as cute. Yeah.
Lives under a bridge.
Some of the other puns that you've come up with, actually, you've really brought the pun into my life more, and I really appreciate you for that. I love the tea jokes that we've been coming up with. Best. Oh man, like what tea lives a long life?
What kind of tea?
Prosperity.
Oh, that's good. What kind of tea? What kind of tea is disaster? Calamity.
Oh, good one. Yeah. Okay. What about like what kind of tea is the minority? Oh shit.
Okay, this one. Okay, what kind of tea do you drink first? Priority.
Oh yes, very good.
We can just go on and on. There was a time when I could just rattle them off like crazy town. No. All right, moving on.
Okay, so there's something tonight that I really want to talk about. I've been actually holding off talking to you about this today.
Yeah, I got home from work and you were like, I can't have any conversation with you. We have to save it until we record the podcast.
Because it's so much better. Like there's certain things that you know, if we're going to talk about them, I don't want to just like talk about them an hour before we then talk about them again in the podcast.
This was actually a fun experiment because it was like, okay, what can we do if we can't talk about past things? We just have to live in the present. And then it was actually a fun playtime with our boy because he's permanently in the present.
Yeah, I know. We couldn't. Yeah, exactly. And he gets kind of upset when we chat for too long to each other. He's like, hello,
I'm here.
Mom and Dad, which is why we have this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay. We talked last podcast about, you know, you doing sleep moving and stuff and how you propped Forrest up on you and he was still sleeping and it was hilarious. But then this morning, the lamp was no longer on the bedside table. It was on the floor beside the bed. And we're not talking about like a little lamp. This is a huge thing. Like you could knock somebody out with this lamp.
Yeah, I picked it up and it wasn't on the side. It was put down properly on the ground.
No, it was just like set down on the floor instead of on the bedside table. Do you have any recollection of that one?
A little bit.
What was that about?
I've been starting to remember them. But it's weird because it's all I remember is that lamp needed to be on the floor. That was so important. It was like this. I just need to put. It was first.
This is weird. This is like almost symptoms of OCD now. Like that's an OCD thing where it's just like this has to happen like this or something bad will happen.
Yeah, it's a similar feeling to when I moved the iPad to the other side of the room because it's like this has to be.
This is starting to creep me out. Like
I don't know why.
When is it going to be too. Like the baby needs to go out the window?
Oh, no. That's not even funny.
No, it's not funny. It's a little bit. I'll talk to our doctor about it tomorrow. I'm going to the doctor with Forrest.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of like it. Like I like that I do sleep stuff.
It's hilarious. It really is.
Yeah, and it's funny memories.
Yeah.
Like, for me, and it's really trippy because I remember being in a room. And I remember waking up, and I remember that it was very important that I move the lamp to the floor. And I wake up, and I'm like, what?
And you looked at me this morning, like, we couldn't say anything because Forrest was still sleeping, but you looked at me and just had this quizzical expression, like, what is this?
It's so bizarre. Oh, my gosh.
Oh.
And didn't I try, and also this last week, I tried to wake up Forrest, too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, you did, too.
Yeah.
You were like shaking him. I think you kind of thought he wasn't breathing or something.
Yeah.
You were baby shaking. Baby shaker. We have a baby shaker.
I was not, for the record, I was not shaking a baby. Okay. Yeah. Don't
shake your baby, by the way.
Don't call child services on us. And don't shake your baby. Okay. For real, though, because they show you a video that basically tells you to not shake your baby when they purple cry.
Yeah.
And of course, you're just like, what are you talking about? I'm never going to shake a baby. But when you have had zero sleep and this baby won't be quiet.
And you don't know what's wrong.
You all of a sudden you're like, am I a terrible person because I can relate to baby shakers?
Yeah. You don't do it, but you understand this feeling mounting in you and you're like, time to put down the baby.
Yeah. And if those parents who are listening right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it would have, before I had a kid and if I heard somebody say this, I'd be like, you're crazy. It's a human. That's a baby. It's so innocent.
Who
it's
in
so
their right
pure.
mind? And you're like, yeah, that's the thing. You're not in your right mind.
Yeah, you're in your wrong mind, whatever that is.
But anyway, we were going back to the baby shaking thing. You weren't shaking him, but you were trying to wake him up. You're just like, Forrest,
yeah.
Like you thought he wasn't breathing or something. This isn't new though. Like you actually did this months ago too.
I think my daddy protective instincts have fully kicked in.
Yeah.
And my dreams are like practices.
Right.
Because
like, what are you gonna do if
Because I don't know much about dreams, but I imagine that's what they kind of do. They train you for things. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
They kind of...
Or I feel like dreams are actually a lot of the times expressing feelings that you already have. So maybe there's something in our life that has you feeling a little bit worried about Forrest. You know, just I feel like that's extremely natural. You know, he's walking now, and we've got this like ledge around our fireplace that's just like super solid granite that we have no idea what to do with, because once he starts running, he could smack his head so hard on that.
And we put protective corners on it, and then that becomes his favorite toy.
To just pull the protective corners off
as soon as we put them back on, he's like, that's great, I have something fun to pull off.
So there's a lot of sources for anxiety, I feel like, that would then manifest themselves in your dreams.
Yeah, but it's just so funny.
What I would like to know is why last night you started asking me, how are you? You're like, hey, how's it going?
Did I do that?
You actually like started talking to me like you wanted to have a conversation, and it felt like you had just come to bed or something, and you were, you know, you just like were totally insensitive to the fact that I was trying to sleep. But I don't think that you had just come to bed. But that was the type of energy you had, like, hey, how's it going?
Oh man,
you're just flirty? Like shaking me. Yeah.
So, hey, let's have a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh man. No, yeah. No.
Once again, that's what this podcast is for.
Yeah, that's not in the middle of the night. Yeah, I have zero recollection. Recognition.
I knew you were. This is how connected you get in the brains.
Yeah. Which happens to us all the time. Like we finish each other's sentences.
Okay, can I just say a little theory that I have about that? Because I have 5 siblings actually, but 4 of them that I was raised with. And we would read each other's minds all the time. Like we would finish each other's sandwiches. You know, that's like that line, right? We'd finish each other's sayings. And I really believe that, you know, there was a time when we hadn't discovered sound waves. We hadn't discovered radio waves. We hadn't discovered microwaves. I think that there are brain waves, and there are like just a giant amount of, you know, channels that you could be on with your brain waves.
Yeah, and
the likelihood that you're actually going to land on the same brainwave as somebody else, you know, especially when they're around you with the energy they're putting out, it's pretty slim. However, when you spend all of this time tracking with people, whether it's your siblings or your partner, I think that sometimes your brainwaves sync up and you actually communicate that way. And that's why sometimes somebody's singing the song that was in your head, or somebody says the thing that you were just thinking of.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and I've experienced, especially with you, multiple times this has happened to us. And yeah, I think people call it psychic energy. I think brainwaves are a thing, though.
That's exactly.
Brainwaves?
Well, I don't think that it's actually like
Brainwaves,
a thing
quick
that
plug,
is
is
defined.
a show that I produce on for
Is that what you were
Oceanways.
trying to pull out of me?
Yeah. No. But I did. We just finished a video on sequencing the beluga genome, which is very interesting.
Yeah, that is super interesting.
But, you know.
But you haven't released it yet. When is it going to be?
It's released today.
Oh, wow. Way to go.
It's out.
Ding dong.
Ding dong.
Yeah.
Here we go.
But other than that show, brainwaves, I don't think is an established thing. It's just my theory. But I believe in it. And especially like to the point where my sister and I, it happens to us so often, my younger sister Cassie and I, that we actually don't, a lot of the times we don't even bother to stop and go, what just happened? Because it happens to us so much that it's just like, there it is again.
It's always just in the middle of a conversation and it's a complete turn. All of a sudden you'll say something completely off topic, and I was just about to say it.
Didn't that just happen to us today? Man, it happens to you and I so much.
I wish we could find an example. We should track it and
talk about it another time.
Talk about it, yeah.
I agree. Brainwaves, man, tapping into it. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, brainwaves, I think that's already a thing. Like, is that a thing?
I don't think so. Not that I've ever heard spoken of.
Brainwaves. Just type it in the old Jujol.
An electric impulse in the brain.
So it is a thing. But it's like, that's what they call, like, neurons moving around and stuff.
Oh, I get it.
So brainwaves are a thing. That's what I was trying to get at. So
cool. Well, I think we can actually pick up on each other's brainwaves.
Or like consciousness.
Yeah.
That kind of ancient wisdom.
I feel like there's so many different languages you could use.
There's a collective consciousness. I forget. Don't quote me on this. I heard it in another podcast, but they did this test with like dogs being able to connect with their owners. And they had dogs at home, and then they would have multiple cars come in the driveway, that weren't their owners.
Right.
And then finally, when the owners did come, the dog would start barking. So they're pretty sure that dogs are connected psychically or whatever you want to call it to their
Cool.
owners.
Super cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least they have the ability anyway. I think the reason why I use the word brainwaves is because it creates like a vision in your head, such as like radio waves, like a radio frequency. You know what I mean? That's just it's just semantics of wording, but I think ultimately it's descriptive, you know?
Right. Yeah, it is descriptive, but not to be confusing, brainwaves is a real thing to describe electrical pulses in the brain.
Glad that we cleared that up,
Glad
Johnny.
that we cleared that up. Yes.
You know what I would really like to clear up? Okay, explain to me again why there was coffee all over the counter this morning when I got up, and there was just like piles of like paper
Grounds?
towel that was just like sopped. That had like sopped up the coffee. You must have been in a rush this morning.
Yeah, I was very rushing. I was a Russian.
Oh,
That's a bad pun. I'm not
Not
Russian.
European?
I'm done. Oh, that's a different joke.
that's a terrible joke.
It's a good joke though.
It was
Okay, here,
terrible.
I'm just gonna say it.
Okay.
When you're going to the bathroom, you're Russian. When you're leaving the bathroom, you're Finnish. What are you when you're in the bathroom?
European.
European.
It's a better joke when it's told like that. It was
Yeah.
bad the way I said it. So, okay, tell me again why the coffee was all over the counter.
Well, I just filled it up a little bit too much, but I kind of thought I would have, so I put paper towels
Just in
around
case?
just in case. Well, because it's happened before. This is, I don't,
You know, I feel like
this is
actually...
that's the most mundane domestic shit we could talk about.
You're right.
So boring.
But if we are going to, go there, I just want to say, I was trying to think, how would you offset that when you're like, okay, I think I put too much water in the coffee maker. I was thinking you take a straw and you suck some of the water out.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then we
should
don't have
do
to go
that.
through that ridiculous
Because I put
mess.
too much water in, and I'm like, oh no, and I know what's gonna happen, and so that would have been a way easier solution than just putting paper towel all around it.
By the way, did you mark this part of the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Just checking.
If this is in, then we just went all balls in.
Balls in, exactly. Balls to the wall.
Balls to the wall.
What is that even? I know that,
Balls to the wall.
it's a visual. That's all it is.
Just like what? Ball is that a thing? Is that a saying? Balls to the wall. I'm just imagining like a game of dodgeball or something. No. What's that game where you throw that little ball on the wall?
What?
And
Is that the
I
paddle
forget what
ball?
it's called. No.
Squash.
Shoot. No, but and then it was if you throw it on the ball.
Throw it on the wall.
Well, you throw it on the wall, and then and then somebody else has to catch it, and then they throw it on the wall. Oh, jeez, I'm not doing so well here. And then the other guy has to catch it. But if somebody they hit it with their hand, but they don't catch it, and it falls back on the ground. If somebody picks up the ball and throws it at the wall before that person touches the wall, then booty. That's what it's called. Booty.
I've never. I'm just learning about this game as you talk about it. I'm like,
But
wow.
it's cruel. It's one of those like blue rubber balls, and they're pretty hard.
Oh,
and
so
then
you gotta whip it.
And if you miss it, then you have to stand facing the wall, and everybody gets to take a turn hucking the ball at you as hard as they
Oh,
can.
it's like that.
Booty ball.
It's booty ball. It's like that version of ping pong that you guys play, sting pong.
Sting pong, yeah.
If you've never heard of sting pong, actually, upon first meeting Johnny's family ever, what did we do? We
played sting pong.
You guys first all stepped on a scale within like 5 minutes of me coming into the house because you all were doing like a weight loss competition.
It's the worst thing to do with bringing home a new girlfriend.
Oh my gosh, your family is so hilarious. I like looking back. I'm just like, this is the coolest. When I first met your family, I was just like, I'm home. These people are great because they're so silly and so loud, and they stepped on scales, and we went and played sting pong, where you play ping pong, and if you miss it, then everybody gets to try and hit you in the back,
Yeah, you should
naked
play
back
it.
with a
It's
ping
fun.
pong ball.
It's just the stakes are so high for ping pong, and they're the highest they'll ever be.
It is, yeah,
because
pretty
it's not like you lose a point or you gain a point or whatever. It's you get a big welt on your back.
Yeah, exactly, and you just
And
like
it's
gather them
bareback.
up like
It's bareback.
yeah, exactly. So so yeah, we played this sting pong. Then we dressed up. And, like, we opened in your mom's tickle trunk.
Yeah.
Your mom dressed up like a super nerdy, like 60s kind of like plaid pants hiked up to her belly button and a gray. It was just hilarious. I'm like, okay, this beautiful woman has like no hold barred about like making herself look like the nerdiest thing ever. And then she pulled out her
dummy.
Her ventriloquist dummy and did a
George.
ventriloquist performance.
Yeah, she pulled out George. All the stops.
Oh my gosh, like this is I don't think I've ever met anybody whose first meeting of their partner's family was like that.
Yeah, they're trying to I guess they're trying to
All the
embarrass
stops.
me or test.
Yeah.
And
Also your brother was trying to like tease me, but I had teasing brothers,
Oh, yeah.
and so I was able to just like, spit some comments back at him like playfully, and I guess he's not used to that.
he didn't know what to do. It was great. It felt really great as a little brother. I was like, yeah, that's my girlfriend.
But you know what? I think that what I want to do is give a little weekly Forrest update because he changes all the time. It's ridiculous. And I wanted to let you know, Johnny, that today, for the first time, he learned how to blow into a whistle.
What?
Yeah, he was, that thing that goes like, boo.
He did it?
He did it. He was going poo, poo, poo.
Wow.
And I was freaking out. I was just like,
did you get video
buddy.
footage of it?
No, of course.
well,
he's on the change table and I'm like, not going to go leave the room.
That's exciting.
I know.
Man. I wish I can see why you didn't want to tell me that, but
Right.
I just want to wake him up and put a whistle in his mouth.
You're going to do that in the middle of the night.
I'm probably going to do that without realizing. Here, buddy,
here's
you're
your
blowing
whistle.
this. And you're back, oh, no, daddy. No, daddy.
But you know what? He turns 1 in like half a month.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. And so I'm thinking just like start trying to train him on how to blow out candles.
Hey.
Right? Because how impressive.
What 1-year-old can blow out candles?
I've never seen a 1-year-old that could blow out candles.
Our 1-year-old
Out
will
of
be
all
able
the
to.
things we could be proud of our son about, it would be at his first birthday getting video footage of him blowing out a candle. Wow!
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
But, this is a firstborn child, so we're putting all the pressure on him already.
Here's the thing. Here's how I see it. I just see, the skills emerging. And so I just want to encourage those skills and just see how much he can do. Because you know what, he's only just started to talk a little bit, like try and say a few words. So we're just trying to encourage that. But there's other things that he hasn't done much of. Like he hasn't done many gestures. So I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, it's fine. But
He said wow. He was trying to say wow today.
That's
that was
so
pretty
cute.
Cool. He was like, wow.
Yeah, and actually he was trying to say moo, but I only just recently realized when he's actually trying to say words because he's not even close to saying them, but he's trying, and I want to give him some encouragement. So like his moo is like, ma, and you're like, good job, buddy. Yeah, you're like, moo. Yeah, totally.
Moo. Sorry, I'm having a
Give it
really
a
hard
good-
time. I'm just like, bubbles are coming up my esophagus.
And out your nose a little bit.
Out my nose. Usually I just let it all out. Maybe that's a problem.
But also this week, Forrest he's getting really good at walking in his boots, which is
Wow.
cool. We went to the park today and he did some good walking around,
He's
which was
a boot
cute.
walker.
Yeah,
Those
he's-
boots were made for walking.
Yeah, and he's
that's
actually-
just what he'll do.
Kind of. And one of these days, those boots are gonna walk all over you.
No. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
He was walking
I
on my
welcome
lap
it.
today.
I welcome it.
He was almost running down the hall today. Not in the boots, but
jeez.
just in regular.
You know what? I'm just going to say this. It's so... what's the most startling thing about having a kid is how normal everything becomes. Because just a couple of months ago, I just couldn't wrap my head around our baby walking. And then as soon as he started walking, it was like, oh, yeah, of course. He walks now.
Totally. And like with teeth, I remember looking at his little gums and just being like, those are the cutest little gums ever. One day there's going to be teeth poking out of there and just bam, all of a sudden there's just the massive teeth sticking out.
It's crazy. This like accelerated adaptability is
Oh, it's
kind of in our
amazing.
tool belt. We
Yeah.
can just adapt.
Totally. Okay, another thing though that Forrest has been doing that I think is really cute, and this is just in the past week, is he's getting really frustrated at not being able to pick up all of the things. Like he wants to
I've
carry
seen that.
all of the things at once. Now that it took him a little while to be into toys, but now that he's like, okay, I'm going to pick up the maraca, and now I'm going to pick up the cup, and I'm also going to pick up this cheesy here, and wait, I'm going to pick up the cheesy. Man,
And then he'll drop the maraca, and then he'll look at the maraca and be like, okay, I need to pick that up. Oh, no, it's cheesy. I need to get that. It's this loop.
Yeah. And he's pretty good-natured about it, but once he starts to get tired, he gets really frustrated.
It's interesting, though, because, like, these are, like, cute little baby things, but I can kind of relate to that frustration with life. Just, like, kind of you take on too many projects or you do too many things and you're like, I just got to pick this up. Oh no.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's like these little baby emotions that I can relate, and then just makes you think we're all just babies.
Speaking of babies, he's crying.
I'm just gonna pause this until Carly's done. So, and we're back.
I basically just helped him fart a bunch. I think that was all it was.
Just helped him toot a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right, what do we talk about? What's this? We got this time to open up our hearts to each other.
Well, okay, you know what I've been thinking about is there's this big thing that's happened here, big bomb that dropped in my life. I'm not returning to work after maternity leave.
Wow.
And I just kind of like went to my former workplace yesterday and
made it official.
Made like a formal farewell to everybody, and it was really lovely. I love everybody there, and it's just such a weird thing, though. It is such a weird thing because I've always felt like a very, strong, independent, self-sustaining, ambitious kind of person, and after having a baby, there's just something that's, I'm not going to say this is for everyone, but something changed in me that I'm a bit of a tunnel vision person, and I have tunnel vision on Forrest. And for me to be going back to work when he's, this small, it feels really off. So we had been talking about me potentially returning part-time and working from home, some of that, and that I would do, but it wasn't doable.
No.
So it was kind of a full-time or no-time situation, and so now it's no time.
Which is the case for a lot of people. And thankfully we're in the position where we can do that.
I feel extremely, extremely privileged to
it's not going to be like all roses and cupcakes. It's still going to be a year of penny pinching.
Yeah, for sure. And
we're going to have to pinch those pennies.
Yeah. And I've got, 2 days a week where my sister's going to be taking care of Forrest, where I'm going to be able to work on my own projects. That's awesome.
Which is also a very privileged thing, as we have family that can help us with
there's
that,
so many people's situations that I just cannot wrap my head around. I just have to keep reminding myself, like, people all turn out okay. A lot of the times, like these babies who are, I feel so sad for babies in the States. And I know that, a lot of people who listen to this are probably in the States, but like maternity leave is like 6 weeks for some people. They're returning back to work, and I just cannot even wrap my head around that. But people make it work, and so I'm just like, kudos.
Yeah, you make it work, and we're capable of doing more than we think we can. We're capable of, just pushing it a little bit more.
But in my case, I just feel really lucky to be in the position that I am in to be able to do this. And so now I'm just pushing myself in a different way, taking different kind of risks.
Yeah, like this, kind of.
Yeah, sure. Just creative pursuits, like
Lots
this.
of creative pursuits. It's important to do that. It's scary because you're put in a very vulnerable position.
It's a hero's journey kind of thing. You're taking a leap. You know what I often think about actually in those situations when you're like, okay, what should I do? Should I do this thing that feels like the safe thing? That's the thing that everybody would recommend me to do. Or a lot of people who, I feel like the average person does the more safe, practical thing. But if you really want to embark on, your hero's journey, that's going to take you down this path that you're going to grow and you're going to become, your best self, you got to take that leap. And it reminds me of Indiana Jones. What's the third one? The Last Crusade.
Right.
And he's trying to cross this cavern, and it looks like there's no way across. There's just a door on one side and a door on the other, and in between is this like deep crevice that he would fall into. But he has to take the first step out and trust that there's going to be something there to catch his footfall, that he's not going to fall down, and there's actually a bridge there. It's just an invisible bridge. And so he sticks his foot out and he steps down and he takes that leap of faith, and there is solid ground beneath his feet. Yeah. And then he's able to cross this thing. But you got to take that leap of faith.
You got to take the leap. That's very important. and I took the leap by moving out here, switching cities to come live with you and go freelance. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made my whole life. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in order for us to have our romance started, I needed to go into debt making an album that was for a music project that never existed before, and nobody was invested in except me, but I just wanted to make this album. And so I invested all this money, and you had told me you would drum on it. We were just kind of acquaintances, and you said, hey, if you need a drummer, and I called you up on it, and then we spent that time together recording, and we fell for each other.
And if that wouldn't have happened, this blows my mind, a new Forrest, a new human wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
He wouldn't. And then to scale it back, like how we met, I was in a band that played in Vancouver, and we were involved in the radio station you worked at. And so in order for Forrest, this boy, this new human, to exist, I had to be in a band that was good enough to make a competition in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And 2 years in a row. And yeah. That's how we got all tangled up. And
and then for me, the reason why I ended up getting into radio, because I went to school for broadcast journalism, but I ended up kind of like veering into this radio territory. I got in a car accident. I was juggling 2 jobs. One of them was just like this kind of like, dumpy radio. I shouldn't say dumpy because a lot of people have that job. I mean, for a broadcast journalist, doing a traffic reporting station is not like, not the brain work that you expected.
Maybe from you coming out of school, thinking of what all the jobs are out there. But for me, if anybody's voice was on the radio, it's like, wow. Like, holy smokes, they're a celebrity. That's why when we started dating, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm dating a celeb. 100%. Don't blow it, Johnny.
Now the veil's off. You're just like, oh.
Yeah, when I would call you on the radio, I was so nervous at the beginning.
But I'm telling a story here.
Oh, right.
So I was juggling these 2 jobs. One of them was like this traffic reporter, but they couldn't give me full-time work. They didn't have like full-time hours. And so I was doing this other job that needed me to have a car and drive around to different doctor's offices. And I got in a car accident, and my car was just unrecoverable, and I didn't have a car anymore. And they were like, we can't employ you anymore, ultimately. And I had put all this money into getting my car ready to go. And so I was just like, I remember feeling like curling into a ball and just like crying. I felt like the world was imploding on me because just like things were going wrong all over the place. But ultimately that had to happen in order for me to say, all right, fine, I'm just going to take as many hours at this traffic job as they will give me. And that ended up being my main source of income. And through doing that full-time as they would give me, I ended up getting other radio opportunities that then eventually led me to working at the station that I met you.
Wow, that's so cool.
All of these things got to happen. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Like that whole everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. I got another one. The band that I was in for a long time, it was 2011. We had been a band for a while, and we were so close to breaking up. Like, it was just the end of our band. We had recorded a record that was unfinished, and I had been started working at Disney, and it was like my dream job, and I wasn't really focused on the music industry or music scene. I was just like kind of fading away. And then I remember when we got into what was called the Peak Performance Project, I remember sitting in my office being like, no. Because I was just like, I was just phasing this band out. And I knew that, like, oh man, now that we're in this project, I have to focus on this. And so much of my time is spent building this career. And I actually kind of dreaded it a little bit, because now we have to spend all this time in Vancouver, in a different city, and go through this whole process.
Yeah.
And then,
That's crazy, but it had to happen.
All these things had to happen. It's nuts.
Everything is super connected. And actually, little insider information, that's why we named Forrest. We took a long time to try and give him that name, because there's all of these things
for like a couple
for 3 days. And we had both of our moms staying with us, so it was just like torture for them. They're
Pressure.
like, every time we came out of the bedroom after like 10 minutes of being there, they'd be like, so did you have a name? We're like, no. Because it was important to us to pick. We're both kind of indecisive people, so to try and like just pick a name that was just like, oh, it sounds, you know what, this one sounds nice. It didn't work for us. We needed like a deeper reason. So forest is kind of like the accumulation of these things that keep happening that eventually amount to where we are now. And all of these events in our lives are like the trees that were planted in order for forests to come alive.
Yeah, and they're all like, when you learn more about the forest now and how they're so connected under the soil, and like all of this mycelium, all these little messenger mushrooms, and like there's this way bigger network than we ever thought there was under there.
Yeah, what was that was a CBC podcast we listened to,
no,
right?
It wasn't. It was the book. Oh, it's a Radio Lab.
The Hidden Life of Trees?
I think so. But I first learned about it from one of my favorite podcasts, Radio Lab by NPR. The episode was called From Tree to Shining Tree, and it's amazing.
It was so beautiful.
It's actually a researcher from UBC here in Vancouver.
Wow, that's what made me think it was CBC. But yeah, no, it's about mushrooms, teeny microscopic little mushrooms that are connecting trees, and it's like a communication system.
Yeah,
it's
and
crazy.
they hunt and stuff for nutrients, and trees store them, and it's this whole network. It's very similar to like a brain. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
You should listen to the podcast.
Our stance is that everything's connected, man.
Yeah, more than we think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
I talked about the big thing in my life lately, this whole not going back to work thing.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. Do you have any big thing in your life right now?
I can talk a little bit about kind of my creative revelations lately. It's just an exercise of trust, and it's an exercise of faith and believing in yourself. And for whatever pursuit you have, it's so important to just call it confidence, call it whatever you want, but just it sounds so cliche, but if you just truly believe in yourself, you'll be able to accomplish things greater than you ever thought possible. And there's and to recognize, I think this is the point that I mentioned before.
It's easy to get tripped up, isn't it?
Yeah, and also to recognize that that's a huge part of the process, and that's when faith comes in. It's interesting because like growing up Christian, we were always taught the concept of faith. And I always associate it with, just like have faith that God is going to do things for you, or Jesus is going to have this plan for you. But now as an adult, I'm approaching those concepts, but to like the everyday life struggle. And so when you're in those low moments. So for me, it's when I have a deadline, and it involves me coming up with just creativity. I have to just pull things out of thin air, and there's always a moment where I just don't know what I'm doing. It's called spinning. I'm spinning or ruminating, whatever you want to call it. And it's what I've been learning recently is I've been recognizing that that's my pattern, and recognizing that if you just really focus on having faith and believing that you will, looking at this pattern in the past and believing that you will be excellent.
Yeah, and that you're going to get through this spinning part, that this spinning part doesn't define you. It's like, I know for me personally, when I'm writing or I'm doing something else that's creative, I get to that point where, it's hard to get your inspiration. It's hard to get your wheels turning. And, all of a sudden you just like these voices start saying like, you're a fraud. You don't, this is, we always knew you actually don't got it. You don't got any talent. You don't have any skill. And all these voices come in just being like, see this right here, this fact that you can't create something right here on the spot is proof that you actually suck at this and you should probably stop.
Yeah. And it's, that is so real. And it's so interesting because I was raised thinking that, because I was raised very Christian and Pentecostal, and I was raised believing that there was a very literal battle of angels and demons, but I never really translated that as a metaphor to kind of the daily grind, and because that is like almost like a binary black and white, good and evil struggle like that's going on in your brain.
The angel on your shoulder and the devil on your shoulder kind of thing.
Those are all real things, and I think there's been a lot of archetypes about that over thousands of years of human history, and we've been it's like a a very human thing, and we've been telling that story over and over and over, and it's very cool to recognize that in your own life, and it kind of connects you to the larger human race, and that's really beautiful. I think that's awesome, and that's
when
why
you can relate to each other on those things. Yeah,
and that's why I love the creative process, and I've learned to really love the lows, and you're not just. It's hard to have hope because you're not going to find the answer there. You just have to trust that you are figuring it out in your subconscious or something, and you just have to sit and you'll be like, okay, I can't, like, for me, I'm an animator and I'm a motion designer, and so I just have to start doing stuff even though I don't know what I'm doing, and I just have to just be okay with not knowing what I'm doing, and just like, you know, I have a blindfold on and walking through the forest. Hopefully I don't hit a tree, but if I do hit a tree, you know, see what falls off the branches. And
it kind of reminds me of the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. She talks about how, you know, this big magic that you can get struck with, this inspiration that comes that feels like you've been blessed with an idea. We can't expect that all the time, you know. We need to actually just put the time in, and that's something I've always struggled with, is, you know, that inspiration just feels so good that you think that that's just the only way it happens. But you actually need to put in the time of just sitting there spinning. You need to put that time in. You need to just like sit down, you know, at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or whatever, just like put your regular time in, instead of like, oh, the inspiration's not hitting me yet, so I'm just going to watch another Netflix show. Like, you need to put that time in order for the inspiration to hit you. You
need to face it. I feel like there's so many distractions now. There's so many reasons to just turn your brain off and go a little bit numb. But it's almost important to just like give yourself some space. Go for a walk. Take out your headphones. Just don't look at Facebook. Leave your phone at home and just be okay with being bored.
Yeah. Man, it's really hard to do. Like, these days I spend a lot of the time nursing in the bedroom, and so sometimes I find myself, I actually did something on my phone, like on Facebook or Instagram or something, and then I don't even remember that I did it. Like, I didn't even remember reaching over to grab my phone to do this thing, and it's just become so impulsive. It's like this subconscious seeking of like these tiny little dopamine hits, and you just it goes under the radar, and you do it too often. It's super creepy.
I always whenever that happens to me, because it happens to me, and I feel like it happens to a lot of people. I feel like a trained animal. I don't like that. It's just like, it's the phantom buzz on your leg when you don't have your phone in your pocket, and it's with the way that Facebook kind of sends you notifications, just like, oh, so-and-so hasn't posted something.
That's why I turned your notifications off for you.
I know, and that was amazing.
Did it change your life?
It changed my whole life.
I actually went into Johnny's notifications on his iPhone, and I don't even have an iPhone. I was just like, how does this thing work? Let's get in here. And I turned off all of the, just like anything that was not important whatsoever. Just turned them all off. And
what we've been doing, I mean, we're not perfect at following it, but we've been following a loose rule of kind of no phones at home rule. Obviously we still do it, but especially when our boys around, we kind of leave our phones off to the side, and we're trying to break the cycle. It seems so weird to me, like, if we stop and think for a second that these babies are getting their first glimpse of the world and how things work, and what they're seeing is so many people staring at these little squares. And like that's why I really try to, if my phone buzzes or something, I don't want Forrest to see me as a trained animal, like you said, just to quickly, my phone, you know, because he's learning from my behavior, and I don't want him to become, you know, a trained animal, at least too young anyway. So it's a weird thing. Like, if you just really think about it, it's very strange how much our kids see us on our phones. Oh yeah, I think about that all the time, and this is a challenge for anybody. I know that we've worked on it over the last year. No, but if you create zones, no phone zones around your home, it rhymes, so it must be good.
Exactly.
If you create no phone zones, just create a room or create a space, even if it's at like the dinner table, you just put your phone away. It's a good thing, I think. It feels good just from what we've been doing, and it's good for creativity. It's good. For a lot of things. Just honestly, like electronics and like screen
like for your mental health, just like healthy amounts of screen time, and just being like, you know what, I'm feeling really foggy headed right now. I think that that's very related to a lot of screen time, and just recognizing that in yourself and being like, you know what, I need to clear my head. I need to go for a walk. I need to like interact with my physical environment more, because this is all stuff that they haven't studied very much. And I know that there's actually new psychological research that they're starting to draft new types of mental illnesses based on the amount of technology that we're interacting with.
Well, Joe Rogan says this a lot on his podcast. He said that if there was a drug that came out that forced people to look at their hands all the time, kind of like how people look at their phones, everybody would lose their mind.
Yeah.
Everybody would just be like, you know, it would be the worst thing ever. We'd become zombies. And really what we're looking at is kind of, most of the stuff we're consuming is nothing. It's really nothing. And here's an example. I used to be really into Reddit, like every day, I had to be on it all the time.
Every time you went to the bathroom, it was like a 10-minute visit.
Yeah, that was like, it was, you know, it's peas would look like poos because I was on my phone.
Exactly.
That's full disclosure.
I'd have to go knock on the door and be like, Johnny, is this like actually a poo time, or is this like Reddit time? Because I really need to get in there.
That's a true story, multiple times. But yeah, so I made the decision to delete it off my phone, and it was hard at first. It was like quitting smoking or something, because it's also a community. You know, there's people on there, and it's it
gets integrated into your lifestyle,
and you create all this importance for it. And recently, I decided to download it again and just check up on it, and I didn't. It was out of my system, and I didn't care about any of this. And I was scrolling through my feeds like I normally would, and I was like, this is all noise. This is nothing. Like, there's no meaning to any of this. Like, there's way more benefits to going outside and looking at a tree than spending all this time. And how much time I looked at my phone and looked at like things that were mildly funny, or like some memes that were, you know, that just like a bunch of people were creating. It's interesting for sure, but the amount of time you can just like pour into these things, and they're designed to keep you hooked too.
Yeah,
like there's
that's
really
the creepy
really
part.
smart people working like full time, developing like machine learning algorithms to keep you on there. It's really startling. I don't know.
You know, it's funny because it's really a balance too, because for a while there I really shunned any kind of internet consumption, because when I was working in radio for a while, that's what I had to do all the time, to just collect so much information to find things to talk about on the radio, and I just was skimming constantly information online, and lots of social media stuff as well. And I just really shunned it for a long time. And I really found a lot of creative void for myself because I wasn't actually consuming very much media. So I think there is a bit of a balance, because once I actually start to, you know, watch some shows that I intentionally choose, that I'm like, ooh, you know what? I've been meaning to watch Planet Earth 2, and making time and space, or, you know, to check out some actual YouTubers that are doing things that inspire me, and spending some intentional time to figure out what, you know, media I want to consume. But it's that balance.
I think that is what it is. It's intention. It's knowing what you want, and not just browsing and kind of like how you can just like have the TV
it's mindlessness,
on.
Right?
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and I would agree with you on that.
It all has to do with meditation, ultimately, like mindfulness. I mean, not that you have to meditate to be mindful, but I mean that would definitely help. It's something I've been meaning to do for ages.
For ages.
It's not even on my New Year's resolution list either.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Well, okay, you know what? We probably should wrap up this.
You're yawning. I've been noticing that you're going off the mic to yawn.
Did I? Oh man, I didn't even notice that.
You've been doing that multiple times, and it is 10:17.
Oh my gosh, it's past our bedtime.
10:17. We just gotta.
But you know what else?
What?
Domestic Bliss is calling. We've got to take the recycling out, because they're picking it up in the morning.
I can't wait to get outside in that fresh air.
Yeah.
And take out the garbage.
As you can tell, we have really exciting things happening for us.
We have super exciting lives.
Yeah, but we are gonna wrap this up for tonight. So We gotta get better at this.
We gotta closing statements.
Yeah. Oh, right. Closing statements. Okay.
We have to have a closing statement. You go.
I think this time this podcast was about that leap of faith. If there's something in your life that feels like, you want to do it, but it feels too risky, go for it. Move towards that and take that leap of faith and trust that shaking things up and going on that hero's journey is always going to be a good thing.
You got to shake a coconut tree to get a coconut.
That's right. Just make sure it doesn't fall on your head.
No.
Or that kills people.
Or you can learn how to climb a coconut tree.
Oh, no. I think I probably discouraged people from taking that leap. You're not going to die from a coconut on the head, okay?
No. Yeah, you won't.
Just shake the tree.
But people die from coconuts.
I know, but let's not focus on that because people are going to... Yeah, don't shake the vending machine. Definitely.
Don't. That's not the analogy we're going for.
No, but I do shake the vending machine. You know what? Just take that leap of faith.
Don't shake the vending machine. People die. But more people die from vending machines than from sharks per year. True fact.
Mm-hmm. That is a true fact. But anyway, what's your closing statement?
Okay, my closing statement is... I'm just going to say it again. This is a try it yourself. Create a no phone zone. No phone zones at home. Do it. Try it for... This is the thing. 1 month isn't a long time. I mean, it may seem like a long time.
What's your context for that?
Okay. Just like with anything, with a diet, with exercise, if you do it, dedicate yourself for 1 month, it'll stick. Mm-hmm. That's not based on any study or anything. Normal. This is based on personal experience.
Yeah.
And so just try it for a month or try it for a week. And see what it does. See what it does for your life, and try to be intentional with observing the change before and after period, because it'll probably make a difference.
So closing challenges more so than closing statements.
Okay, this is a closing statement then. Sometimes when you feel so good, it's too good, and you think to yourself, why do I feel this way? And it's because it's okay to feel good sometimes.
Wow. I'm gonna ponder that as I fall asleep tonight.
Sometimes you can feel bad about feeling good.
Actually, that's a real plight of mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, one last tag on the end of this. I felt that when I went out today to a dentist appointment. My sister was watching Forrest, and I just could not stop having anxiety about being away. Like, oh, I gotta get back. Like, no, I can't stop for cat food. I gotta get back.
No, you gotta feel good about that.
Just crank the music, roll the windows down.
Sometimes it's good to feel good.
Yeah.
And if you're not hurting anybody, including yourself, it's okay.
What's the problem?
Yeah.
All right, Johnny, I'm taking that to bed with me.
Okay.
Okay.
Me too.
Love you, honey.
Love you.
Talk to you next week.
Yeah, talk to you next week. Bye.
All right, well, that was fun for us. We hope it was for you too. And if you want to join the conversation, you can find us on Facebook. Search Carly and Johnny, or on Instagram at Carly and Johnny, CARLY and JOHNNY. Theme song performed by Johnny Jansen and myself, Carly Jansen. Audio engineering by Johnny, editing by me, and our fancy thumbnail art is by my talented niece, Abby Hoekstra. Thanks for joining us, and we will talk to you next week.